when world record diver Ariarne McKeon vanishes during a solo descent into an uncharted trench known as Teluk-Sunny, the Silent Bay. Only her shattered helmet returns. Official reports call it an accident. Her ex-boyfriend, Liam Ross, knows better. As he dives into the shadows she left behind, he uncovers encrypted logs, sunken evidence, and whispers of a deep-sea facility hiding something monstrous. Human cloning, corporate espionage, and a conspiracy worth killing for. Ariarne isn't dead, she's a key. And the deeper Liam digs, the more he realizes. Some truths aren't meant to resurface. The sea was dead quiet that morning. Not a single ripple. It felt wrong. Ariarne McKeon stood on the edge of the dive platform, wetsuit zipped up, eyes on the water. She was known for pushing limits, not just how deep she could go, but how long she could stay there. People called her fearless. That wasn't it. She just didn't feel safe anywhere else. Behind her, the crew of the Nautilus Crown moved through final checks. Clipboards, gauges, nods, but something was off. The air was too tight, too careful. Captain Hugo Marin, the rich man funding this whole trip, watched her from the upper deck. His face was all charm. His eyes were ice. This wasn't a research mission. It wasn't for records or sponsors. This was personal. A sonar blip to 180 meters down. An uncharted sinkhole near a reef off Indonesia. Locals called it Teluk-Sunny, Silent Bay. Old stories said fishermen vanished here. Ariarne had seen the reports. Not myths, real disappearances, sketchy customs logs, ghost ships. And a growing list of divers who didn't make it back. She geared up. No press, no cameras. No backup. One last look at the surface crew. Then she dropped in and didn't come back up. Liam Ross hadn't spoken to her in nearly a year. Their breakup was ugly. Words you don't take back. She told him he didn't understand her work. He told her she was reckless. Maybe they were both right. He was halfway across the world when he got the call. Ariarne's gone. Her assistant's voice barely held together. She never resurfaced. Liam flew out the next day. When he got to the dock. The Nautilus Crown was already back. Clean. Too clean. The crew avoided eye contact. Marin claimed the dive went wrong. Side Ariarne pushed too far. They found her helmet, cracked from the inside, wedged in a rock shelf. No distress signal. No video. Her dive plan said 80 meters. The sonar anomaly was 180. She overreached, Marin said flatly. You know how she was. Liam stared at him. Yeah, I do. That's why I don't buy it. At the hotel that night, Liam opened a voicemail from her. One he hadn't listened to before. If anything happens, don't let them bury it. You know how to look in the dark. She wasn't panicked. She was prepared. Liam knew Ariarne. She didn't make mistakes. She made plans. He dug into her things. Laptop locked, but he cracked it using an old serial number from a dive they did together years ago. Inside, a hidden folder. Hydra_1. Encrypted sonar scans. Private notes. Dive coordinates that didn't match what she gave the crew. She'd been investigating something under that reef. Not a geological feature. Not a wreck, a structure. She knew it was dangerous. 2 days later, Liam was back at the dock. A local fisherman approached him with a corroded oxygen tank he found washed up on shore. Liam inspected it. Serial number etched on the side. It belonged to a diver reported. Missing 2 years ago. Not random. A pattern. Something or someone was down there. And they were covering their tracks. Marin didn't care. The authorities brushed it off. Just another lost diver. No one wanted questions. The story was written. Ariarne McKeon took a risk and paid the price, but Liam didn't believe it. He remembered the pendant he'd given her, steel, engraved, "Find me if I'm lost." She wore it under every wetsuit. It wasn't just sentimental anymore. It was a reminder. She was trying to tell him something. He stared out at the bay, still quiet, still waiting. If no one else was going to find her, he would, even if it meant going in alone. Because something dragged her down there, and Liam wasn't coming back up without answers. Liam Ross didn't sleep the night he found the rusted oxygen tank. The ocean outside his hotel window slammed the rocks again and again, like a warning. The tank had the same serial number, same make, logged missing 2 years ago. Different diver. Same fate. This wasn't a tragic one-off. It was a pattern. He spread Ariarne's dive notes across the bed, pairing them with missing persons reports, sonar maps, old customs logs. Each incident, every diver, every accident, pointed back to a tight 5-kilometer radius off Teluk-Sunyi. Always the same location. Always unexplained. Every case buried under equipment failure or human error. But cracked helmets don't split from the inside on their own. Ariarne hadn't vanished. She'd been taken. Liam tried getting the Nautilus crowns full. Dive log, but Captain Marin had already disappeared, supposedly back to Singapore. Liam wasn't surprised. He'd worked Black Ops and deep-sea recovery. He knew how to chase ghosts. A bribe to a port official got him a glimpse at a redacted log Marin had tried to delete. It showed a detour. The Nautilus crown had stopped at an unregistered island the night Ariarne disappeared. No official name. No ownership records. Just coordinates and fuel data. Enough to track. Enough to be suspicious. That same night, Liam noticed the black SUV. No plates. Tinted windows. Slow tail. It wasn't trying to hide. Just remind him he was being watched. This wasn't about one woman anymore. This was organized. Liam called May Arjuna, a former Navy diver turned salvage expert. No small talk, just facts. When he told her about Ariarne's disappearance and the island, she said, "Text me the coordinates. I'm bringing gear." When she arrived, she studied Ariarne's laptop and shook her head. This isn't marine science. This is black market ops. Someone's protecting something down there. She showed Liam intercepted radio chatter, encrypted signals bouncing off fishing frequencies near the same reef system. Military level. Masking. Hidden in plain sight. Not natural noise. Someone was talking under the radar. This isn't a reef system, May said. It's a front. Liam kept hearing Ariarne's voice, the message she'd left him weeks before she vanished. If something happens to me, don't let them bury it. You know how to look in the dark. She knew what she was swimming into. She'd just gone too deep. The next morning, Liam and May set out on her salvage vessel, stripped down, fast, loaded with sonar and a 2-person chamber. She'd pinpointed the final ping from Ariarne's dive tracker. It was 182 meters down. Dropped anchor just off the shelf. The sonar painted a clear picture, a large void under the seafloor. No rock, no coral, just geometry. Angled edges, straight lines. No way it was natural. Ariarne hadn't gotten lost. She'd entered something. Built. May checked the readings. This isn't a dive, she said. This is infiltration. They suited up, full tanks, deep suit insulation, backup drone cameras. Every second mattered. But just before descent, the sonar spiked. Something was moving down there. Large. Slow. Not swimming. Watching. Liam stared at the screen. It wasn't a fish. Wasn't a sub. It was just a shadow, circling their position. It knew they were there. Back on land, while they were out at sea, someone broke into Liam's hotel room. They didn't take cash. Or gear. They took Ariarne's laptop, and they left something behind. Her pendant. The one Liam gave her years ago. Only now it was scorched, burned around the edges. Someone had taken her. And now they wanted him to know they were watching. Not just watching, daring him to follow. The water swallowed Liam whole. Cold, black, crushing. His breath echoed inside the dive helmet, heartbeat ticking louder than the regulator. Every meter down pulled tighter around his chest. This wasn't like the dives he did in the military. This was something else. The ocean didn't want him here. He could feel it above. May's voice crackled through comms. Descent at 110 meters. Structure holding steady. No movement. Yet. The sonar had gone quiet, but Liam knew they weren't alone. Something was down here, watching. Waiting. At 180 meters, the light from the surface was long gone. Total dark. Just the beams from their helmet lamps cutting narrow tunnels through the black. The reef had disappeared behind them, replaced by a jagged trench wall, and beyond that, the structure. It wasn't natural. The walls were smooth, angled, artificial, like a bunker carved into the sea floor. And then he saw it. Ariarne's pendant, snagged on a sharp edge of metal just above the hatch. He froze. She'd been here. Right here. He took it, slipped it into his chest pouch, and turned toward the entryway. A narrow, mechanical hatch, hanging open like a mouth. Inside was worse. The walls weren't metal. Not entirely. They looked repurposed, like parts from different ships, welded into a Frankenstein corridor. Scratched numbers, burnt markings. One said, property of Unpack SUB 7A, a military sub, decommissioned years ago. They hadn't built this. They'd used it. Recycled wrecks into something else. May's voice whispered in his ear. This is wrong, Liam. These aren't research modules. These are holding cells. She was right. He turned the corner, and there they were. Glass chambers. 6 of them. All empty. One had blood smeared inside the glass. Another had scratch marks, long and desperate. Like someone had fought to get out. He turned to the last one. The number stenciled on the door read A13. Inside was a dive log. Ariarne's. So she'd made it. Made it in. But she didn't make it out. Suddenly, movement. Something slammed in the distance. Metal screeching. The water around him trembled. And then, comms cut out, static. Then silence. May was gone. He wasn't alone anymore. Liam backed out, hand gripping his sidearm. Light flickered as he moved through the corridor. His oxygen was dropping faster than expected, like something was draining power. A door opened ahead. Not on its own. A figure stepped out. Full dive suit, face hidden. Helmet lights dead. The figure didn't speak, didn't move. Just watched. Liam froze, raised the gun. Where is she? No response. Then a slow movement. The figure raised its hand and pointed behind Liam. He turned, and there it was. A massive chamber. A central tank. Sealed. And inside, barely visible through the frost and shadow, a body suspended in fluid. Tubes. Electrodes. Unconscious. Alive. Ariarne. His chest locked up. She was alive. He ran to the tank, tried the controls. Locked. No power. He turned, but the figure was gone. Gone, like it was never there. Something deeper moved in the shadows. This wasn't just an abduction. It was testing, monitoring, holding. And she wasn't the only one. Charts on the wall. Cycles, vitals, dates, multiple subjects. Most listed as failed. Only one marked viable. Her name. Suddenly, alarm screamed. Red lights, oxygen failing. The structure groaned like it was alive. Water leaking from the seams. A countdown appeared on the wall. Self-destruct. Liam had seconds. He pulled the emergency lever, ejected the tank capsule containing Ariarne, locking her into ascent mode. Then he swam, Hard up the hatch, through the trench, lungs burning. He surfaced just as May pulled him aboard, eyes wide. The ocean behind them erupted in a thunderclap, the entire site imploding beneath the waves, sucked into the black dot gone dot, but not forgotten. On deck, Ariarne lay unconscious, breathing, pulse steady. Liam dropped to his knees beside her. She was alive. But the questions weren't over. They were just beginning. Ariarne woke up choking, not from lack of air, but from a flood of disjointed memories. Blinding lights, cold water, hands on her arms, a scream underwater, then nothing, then pain. The first face she saw was Liam's. He looked tired, rough, older than she remembered. His voice cracked when he said her name, like he didn't believe she was real. But Ariarne didn't hug him. She sat up slow, scanned her body, chest, arms, back. The wires were gone, tubes gone too, but the bruises were still there. Faded injection marks down both arms. She'd been out for weeks, maybe more. Whatever they'd done to her, it hadn't been quick. Where am I? Her voice came out like sandpaper. Safe, Liam said, but they both knew that wasn't true, that she was out. That didn't mean she was safe. They were holed up in a backroom clinic, buried somewhere inland, off any official grid. May had set it up through her salvage contacts. No names, no IDs, no digital trace. Liam had paid with favors and dirt, just to keep the place quiet. A single social media post would put a bullet in Ariarne's head. "You shouldn't have come for me," she muttered. Liam just looked at her. "You think I could sit home while you vanished into the dark?" "I left you clues so you'd blow the place wide open," she said. "Not follow me in." He didn't answer. The truth? If he'd known what was really down there, he might have walked away. But he hadn't, and now they were both in it. Ariarne started talking slowly. Gaps in time, pieces missing. But the story was clear enough. She'd entered the structure thinking it was abandoned. It wasn't. They pumped something into her tank, some kind of gas. No taste, no smell. By the time she realized she couldn't move her limbs, it was too late. Divers in full black pulled her into a chamber not visible on sonar. Metal walls, cold, no windows. She was never unconscious for long. They wanted her awake. She remembered being strapped down, run through scans. Long sessions of forced dives under extreme pressure. Sleep deprivation. Shock tests. They tracked her oxygen limits. Her blood response. Her ability to stay conscious under blackout conditions. Sometimes alone. Sometimes with others. But the worst part? No one spoke, ever, not a word. Just machines, monitors, beeps. Liam clenched his fists. "How long?" "I don't know," she said. Felt like weeks, could have been longer. Time didn't work right in there. At some point, I stopped dreaming. I couldn't tell if I was awake or dead. He stared at her. "Why didn't they kill you?" She paused. "Because I didn't break," she said quietly. "I held out longer than the others. I was the control sample. They called me viable." She didn't say it like a compliment, more like a label. A BARCOD E. walked in holding a flash drive. "You need to see this." The footage was from a drone Liam had dropped just before the collapse. Most of the data had been scrambled, but May had managed to salvage part of the time-stamped internal feed. It showed a medical chamber. Tanks lined the walls. One of them held Ariarne. Next to her, another subject, male, face blurry, body slim but muscular. Liam froze. It looked like Marin. "He was in on it?" Liam asked. Ariarne nodded. "He's the one who pulled me out. Called me by name. He wasn't just a captain. He was recruiting, or replacing someone who didn't make it." Liam started pacing. This wasn't trafficking. This was funded, military-level tech. This was training, or transformation, or colonization, May said. Think about it. People trained to live down there. Forever. No air. No sunlight. Just pressure and darkness. Ariarne stared at the paused footage. It wasn't just a lab. It was a facility. A program. Ongoing. Then the power went out. Just 2 seconds. No explosion. No alarm. But Liam had seen enough combat to know what that meant. It wasn't a glitch. It was a warning. He grabbed his sidearm. May swept the hallway. Nothing moved. But none of them were willing to bet this was random. That night, they relocated again. This time to Jakarta. Top-floor apartment, surveillance feeds, new aliases. But Ariarne was slipping again. Not mentally, obsessively. She stopped eating. Slept in 30-minute bursts. Filled notebooks with sketches of what she remembered from the structure. Corridors, tanks, dive paths. Coordinates, names. Liam told her it was over. That she had survived. That it was time to burn everything and disappear. But she just looked at him. You still don't get it, she said. I'm not the only one. I'm just the one that made it out. She was right. May's contact, the man who had secured the safe house, was found dead a week later, drowned in a locked apartment. No bathtub, no water, just lungs filled with seawater. An AUSB arrived in Jakarta, no return address. Just a video file. No sound, no metadata. A new chamber. New location. One tanked. Occupied. A woman. Breathing. Eyes open. Ariarne leaned closer. Her jaw locked. The face was hers. Almost. Different haircut. Younger. Scar on the opposite side. But same face. Same bone structure. Clone? Twin? She didn't know. But the message was clear. She wasn't special. She was just one version. It broke her. Not in fear, in fury. They moved, she said. They rebuilt, and now they've replaced me. Liam tried to calm her. You don't owe them anything. You owe yourself a life. She looked at him like he'd missed the point. I'm not running, she said. Not again. This isn't about me anymore. Liam saw it in her eyes, the same look she had the night before her last dive. Focused, icy, ready, but this time it wasn't for exploration. This time she was going back to shut it down. Permanently. The decision to return wasn't made in some cinematic moment of fury. No slammed fists or grand speeches. It came in silence. A quiet breath between nightmares. Ariarne sat on the floor of the safe house at 3:42 a.m., dripping with sweat, staring at a map she'd redrawn for the 50th time. Red lines slashed across regions of the Indian Ocean. Not random. Not anymore. She knew now. The facility at Sunny was never meant to last. It was a test run. A modular lab. Meant to fold, sink, disappear, and move again. Mobile. Like a parasite. Funded through shell companies. Sanctioned by no nation. There were others, at least 4, scattered along disputed borders, mapped only in deep-sea current patterns and sonar distortions too subtle for civilians to notice. But Ariarne noticed. And one of those distortions matched the water signature from the video Liam received. The one showing a woman in a tank who looked just like her. That wasn't a message. That was a dare. They had 7 days to prepare. 7 days to fake identities, hack maritime clearance, and charter a deep-sea rig under the guise of offshore drilling. 7 days for Liam to bury his conscience and load the kind of gear you only bring when you plan not to come back. He kept looking at Ariarne like she was slipping, like whatever they'd done to her in that lab had unhinged something permanent. She barely slept, hardly spoke. But when she did, it was clinical, calculated, like a surgeon rehearsing incisions. We don't hit the surface structure, she said one night, tracing circles over the sonar scans. We go in through the outflow channel. Less surveillance. Less chance of a collapse. Liam wanted to say something, wanted to ask her if this was about saving the others, or vengeance. But he didn't, because he already knew the answer. It was both. They reached the site at dawn. The ocean was unnaturally calm again, not peaceful, but watchful, like it remembered her. The dive went dark faster than expected, silt swirling like smoke. Visibility, 5 meters. Ariarne moved like muscle memory, as if every horror had been stitched into her reflexes. Liam followed, gunlight fixed on her fins. At 220 meters, the outline emerged. A dome, bigger than the last one, half buried in trench rock, camouflaged. By nature and design, this wasn't a lab. It was a vault. And it was alive, pulsing faintly with light, drawing in water from unseen channels. They bypassed the main airlock, entered through the filtration shaft. Inside, it was colder than Ariarne remembered. Cleaner, no flickering lights. No rust. It was as if this place had never been abandoned, never meant to be found. A machine, built to swallow people and erase them. They moved in silence through the upper levels, corridors lined with reinforced glass, misted from the inside. Behind the first door, empty tanks. Behind the second, 2 bodies, floating in fluid, eyes open but minds long gone. Ariarne hesitated at the third door. A camera followed her movements, not aggressive, just ... curious, watching like it remembered. Her too. Then the door slid open on its own. No warning, no alarm, just a mechanical welcome. Inside, the chamber was humming. Warm, soft blue light bathed the room. And there, suspended in a pod, the girl from the video. Eyes closed, breathing shallow, skin unmarked. A perfect echo of Ariarne at 22. Liam stared. She looks just like you. But Ariarne wasn't looking at her face. She was looking at the data screen. Vital signs, test logs, growth rate, neural imprint syncing. This wasn't a prisoner. This was a backup. A contingency. In case she ever escaped. Ariarne leaned closer, hand pressed to the glass. The girl twitched, not in fear, but recognition. Like her body remembered what her mind could not. She's awake, Ariarne said. Liam stepped back. We don't have time to... But the lights flickered. An alarm triggered somewhere. Deep in the station. The place was reacting, not panicking. Adjusting, doors began to shut. Systems rerouted. The facility was sealing itself like a submarine preparing for launch. We've been flagged, Liam said, raising his rifle. We need to extract her now, or leave her behind. Ariarne looked at the pod again, then at the growing data stream. More names, more models. Test Group 7, Group 9, all viable. This wasn't about her anymore. She was just one of many. And if they left now, the cycle would never stop. She slammed her fist into the emergency override, shattering the pods. Lock. Fluid spilled onto the floor. The clone, or whatever she was, collapsed into her arms, gasping, eyes wild with fear and confusion. She's human, Ariarne said. She didn't ask to exist. Liam hesitated, then grabbed her other arm. Then we take her, and we blow this place to hell. They moved fast, alarms blaring. In the core chamber, Ariarne triggered the overload, destabilizing the structure's ballast tanks. But as they turned to leave, a shadow moved across. The upper platform. Marin, alive, watching, not surprised, not angry, just ... disappointed. You always had to be the exception, he called down, voice calm over the intercom. We tried to give you purpose, and all you've done is ruin it. Then he pressed a button. Explosions rocked the station. Flooding began. Liam fired twice. Bulletproof glass. No effect. Move! They ran, water chasing them like a fist. The clone, barely conscious, clung to Ariarne's back. At the shaft, May's IVAC drone was waiting. They launched upward as the structure collapsed below, vanishing in a plume of dust and bubbles and silence. They broke the surface in darkness, coughing, shaking, alive, but not whole, because Ariarne knew this wasn't over. The clone was one of many dot, and someone, somewhere, was already rebuilding. The silence after survival is never peaceful. It's sharp, unfinished, humming with questions no one dares ask out loud. Ariarne stood at the edge of the Indonesian pier, her skin still stinging from salt and adrenaline, while behind her, the girl, the one who looked like a younger her, lay unconscious in a medical tent, lungs still adjusting to open air. May was on the satellite phone, speaking low and fast to a contact in Bangkok who promised immediate extraction. But Ariarne knew better. There was no running from this. Not now. Not when her blood was still boiling with what she'd seen. Clones, records of experiments dated back a decade, and funding trails that led not just to Marin's hidden empire, but to governments, pharmaceutical companies, tech billionaires smiling on magazine covers. This was never about one madman. It was a system. And she had cracked it wide open. But information meant nothing without proof, and every hard drive she smuggled out now pulsed like a ticking bomb in her backpack. And Liam? He sat alone under. A broken pier light, knuckles bruised, breathing like a man trying not to drown in dry air. He hadn't said a word since the escape, since he'd watched Marin disappear behind that bulletproof glass, smiling like the devil in a lab coat. "We didn't finish it," Liam muttered finally, voice hoarse. "That place ... It was just one head of the Hydra." Ariarne didn't argue. She just pulled out her waterproof satchel, unzipped it, and handed him a vial. A blood sample. "It's hers," she said. "Genetic ID matches mine, 92% overlap. Enough to prove cloning. Enough to prove everything." He stared at the vial like it might bite. "You're going to go public?" Ariarne's eyes didn't blink. "We have to." But even as she said it, doubt crawled up her spine. Because exposure didn't guarantee justice. It guaranteed war. Whistleblowers vanished. Stories were silenced. And this wasn't just a story. It was a weapon that could shift the world order. She remembered the girl in the tank, the way her eyes fluttered open like she was being born into terror. What kind of life did she deserve now? What kind of world? But time, as always, didn't wait. By morning, a black SUV pulled up to the compound. No plates, no logos. The man who stepped out wore diplomat's shoes and mercenary eyes. "Ms. McKeon," he said smoothly, "we're here to debrief you." Quietly, Ariarne stepped back. "Who sent you?" The man only smiled. "You already know." That was all the confirmation she needed. Liam moved forward, hand on his concealed weapon. But the man didn't flinch. "You've interfered with classified maritime intelligence," the man continued. "You're in possession of illegal genetic material. Let us handle this, or everything you care about goes away." It was a threat, not a negotiation. And it meant they were scared. Ariarne held the vial tighter. "If you walk back to your car right now," she said, "I'll give you a head. Start before I bury this story with names, dates, and offshore bank records." His smile faded. "You think people will believe you?" She didn't blink. "I think they won't get a choice." The man hesitated, then walked away, but not before leaving a card. No name. Just a number. A warning. The moment he was gone, Ariarne turned to Liam. "We need to vanish. Just for a while. Long enough to hit the failsafe." Liam nodded, because they'd planned for this. In a safe house in Jakarta, A pre-scheduled email was waiting, armed with files, evidence, photos, and that file's genetic sequence. One trigger, and it would go to every journalist, every whistleblower site, every human rights watchdog from Geneva to New York. The exposure would be nuclear, but timing was everything. If they triggered it too soon, they'd be erased before. The world could react. Too late, and the next lab would open in silence. But before they could move, something shattered the night. Gunfire. Suppressed, precise. May screamed from the tent. Liam pulled Ariarne down as bullets ripped through the tin roof. The compound was under assault. Not military, not police. These were ghosts, black-clad men with no insignia, no identifiers, sweeping in from boats with perfect formation. They weren't here to talk. They were here to clean up. Liam dragged the unconscious clone girl into cover, while Ariarne triggered the compound's distress beacon, a last resort. Lights flared. Sirens wailed. Chaos. Ariarne fought like a cornered wolf, a flare gun to the face, a knife across. The thigh, the scent of gunpowder and blood choking the air. She reached the satchel, clutched the hard drives. A bullet struck her shoulder. She didn't scream. She couldn't afford to. Liam fired back, precise and brutal, dropping two. Of them, but they kept coming. Until floodlights, helicopters, UN markings. Someone had answered the beacon. Too fast. Too clean. Ariarne didn't believe in coincidences anymore. They were extracted by force, split, separated, decontaminated, interrogated. But somewhere between the questions and the white walls, something shifted. A leak. A whistleblower report. Then 2. Then 5. Ariarne never pulled the failsafe. She didn't have to. Someone else did. Maybe May. Maybe a rogue journalist watching the sonar feeds. Maybe a tech who'd seen too much and had just enough conscience left. The clone's photo hit the dark at first. Then Ariarne's dive logs. Then sonar maps. The truth didn't trickle. It erupted. Governments denied. Corporations lied. But the evidence was ironclad. Investigations opened. Sanctions followed. Arrests were made. But Naren? Gone, as if the ocean swallowed him whole. Months passed. Ariarne was offered asylum. Liam returned to the quiet, disappeared into remote dive communities, forever looking down into darkness for shadows that didn't belong. The clone girl, now named Kaya, began rehabilitation, therapy, language, memory construction. She was learning to be real in a world that never asked for her. Ariarne visited her often. She brought books, taught her to swim. The ocean terrified her. But slowly she began to float. On the anniversary of the dive, Ariarne stood at the same cliff where it all began. The wind was cruel, the sea still watchful. In her hand, the necklace Liam had given her, the one that once said, "Find me. If I'm lost." She threw it into the surf. Not because she didn't believe in it, but because she no longer needed it. She hadn't just been found. She'd fought her way back. The world knew now. And it would never forget. But deep down, beneath the trenches, something still breathed. And Ariarne knew. Some things don't stay buried forever.